It's the Ask JP podcast with JP Morrell. Now, let's start the show. Here's JP.
Welcome to the Ask JP podcast, where we tackle the news and issues of the day. Once again, we're continuing in our series looking at different legislative seats. Today, we're talking about newish District 23 to New Orleans, and we have with us Shaun Mena, who is a candidate for that position. Monet, do you want to lead off with the first question?
Yeah, sure. Welcome, Shaun, to the podcast. Happy to have you here. What we've been asking each candidate that comes on for our first question is, why did you decide to run for the state legislature? What makes you the best candidate for the job? And what do you see as the needs of your constituency in House District 23?
Yes, thank you all so much for the platform. I definitely do appreciate it. Basically, I'm running because I believe that I'm something new and that I can bring fresh perspectives to this publicly elected official office. As the son of immigrants from Honduras, there is a large Hispanic population in this district, and I think that I'm uniquely suited to actually be able to speak as a voice for them as a first-generation American as well. Also, every public school that I've gone to, from McDonough 31, from elementary all the way up to Warren Easton, is actually located within the lines of District 23 as it's drawn as well. And most importantly, I live in the district with my wife and 2-year-old son. So this is my home. Passionate about this place, Mid-City, Hollygrove, Gerttown. They're all places that I frequent, whether going to hang out by friends or supporting various businesses in those places as well. And as far as what makes me the best candidate, I truly believe that it's my policy experience, because I was able to work under Governor Kathleen Blanco as a policy analyst, and also I was able to work for U.S. Senator Mary Landrieu up there in D.C. as well. And also I worked for various state agencies, including the Louisiana Housing Finance Agency, which is currently known as the Louisiana Housing Corporation, and also the Louisiana Board of Regents, which oversees higher education policies. And also, I do have experience working for a law firm. Basically, after the BP oil spill, there was a law firm set up here to actually make small businesses economically whole. And that's what I did every day, fighting for the small business owners of Louisiana. And currently, I'm a small business owner in the district as well, running the Mena law firm as well. So this district is my home. It's taught me persistence over resistance. It's taught me resilience. It's given me the inspiration to go ahead and just be the best person that I can, because, coming up in the inner city in New Orleans, when we were murder capital of the world, it was tough in the district, but, I just had a dream, and it wasn't easy to get to this point, and not saying that I'm like the most successful guy in the world, but you know what? My story really shows that what's possible when we invest in our young people, when we invest in education and infrastructure. As far as what's needed in the district, I think infrastructure is the most important thing, because look, Labor Day was ridiculous in Mid-City. Trying to drive down Norman C. Francis was just treacherous, and I got my vehicle messed up as well. So it wasn't fun. And also economic development, which is good because we have the bio district in the district as well. So we just need to make sure that we have good paying jobs in the district, because what we're dealing with right now in terms of crime is a lot of property crime, and that's indicative of people that are hurting. So we need to make sure that we have good paying jobs for our citizens, and also just make sure that we have insurance relief as well for the homeowners that are in the district, and also the renters, because a lot of that cost gets passed on to the renters in our district as well.
Okay. Just a quick question before I get to the real question. When you were at Board of Regents, was that when Jason Hughes? Yeah, was Jason Hughes still there when that happened?
No, he was not.
He already moved on. All right, just we've had quite a few people who came from different state positions in the legislature. I know that Jimmy Harris did some work in the state government. I know that Jason Hughes did at Board of Regents. And Board of Regents is kind of like one of the underappreciated, overarching overlords of education. But sorry to digress. But let's get to the meat.
Well, it was seeing folks like yourself and seeing folks like Cedric Richmond up there at the dais fighting for people, fighting for New Orleanians every day, that kind of gave me the inkling even back then that, what, these guys are really fighting the good fight up here. And it's not easy because folks wouldn't understand the kind of anti-New Orleans sentiment that's out there amongst the states. So, we have a lot of brave men and women that have been fighting up there at the legislature.
Well, I'm glad you're going into this with both eyes open, because there is a whole lot of anti-New Orleans sentiment up there. But getting to a meat and potatoes question, what is your stance on abortion? And please be specific. We say specific because it has kind of become the flavor of the day to do the John Bell, or John Bell's a bad example, the Mary Landrieu abortion, but just kind of give us what your views are on abortions, or generally speaking, kind of where you are on that issue, because it's an important issue to New Orleanians.
Definitely. I'm definitely pro-choice. I do believe that a woman's body is her own. And as a man, I have no right or even reason to legislate that at all. So as a man who's married to a woman and has a mother as well, that is just, it's almost laughable. It's just not my place. I couldn't imagine being legislated that, I had to get nipped.
That's a really good point.
I couldn't believe it if they would try to pass that type of law. So I don't believe that we should be able to pass laws legislating women's bodies at all. And I definitely believe that backing abortion policies is critical to upholding fundamental human rights and guaranteeing that everyone's ability to independently and knowledgeably choose what's best for their reproductive health, well-being. So everybody has a right to choose, and I don't believe in legislating that right to choose at all.
Okay. Mona?
All right. Let's switch topic a bit to a topic that I think my fellow House District 23 residents, I'm in the new district, so
yeah,
I am going to be one of your voters.
You're pitching a voter right now, just FYI.
No,
hey, people, how you doing?
Good, how about you?
I'm right there on North Rendon Street. You know where Pals is?
Oh, I'm right by Pals. Yeah, I'm on St. Philip.
So I'm literally a block away, right in front of the old school that they turned into apartments. Yeah, that was my elementary school, as a matter of fact.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And funny story, I was late every day. But anyway, that's another
neighborhood. Okay, so a topic that I feel like the House District 23 residents hold near and dear to their hearts. Should cannabis be legalized recreationally?
Yes. I personally, I'm going to steal a line from the first president that I really was able to follow on the news. I do not know how to inhale, so I'm not able to partake. But if anybody watching this wants to teach me, I'd love to learn, because people always say it's like breathing, but I just don't get it. But, this is just, it's truly a personal issue to me, because my father, we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of his death, but he died from complications with multiple myeloma, which our congressman, well, not our congressman, but our adjacent congressman, Steve Scalise, was actually diagnosed as well. Basically, it's a blood-borne cancer. And he was dealing with a lot of pain. And I remember him being prescribed all of these pills, and they would just leave him lethargic and just not in a good mood. So I remember one day just saying, you know what, maybe we should just try some marijuana. And it was literally like a miracle drug. He just got more filled with life and was able to enjoy his last years on this earth. So I truly believe it is a medicinal medicine, and there's no reason that we should we should be regulating it as a schedule. I forget what schedule 2 or
Schedule 1, I believe.
Yeah, schedule 1. Yes. So it definitely should not be a schedule 1, and I do believe in recreational use as well.
Okay. This is one obviously a lot of New Orleanians care about. What do you see the role of the state in addressing crime issues in New Orleans?
I'm going to answer this with 2 different hats. The first hat is going to be from my experience being up there at the state capitol, observing the legislature, and also just how I genuinely feel is that they don't understand New Orleans, and any type of bill that they end up proposing would just end up being overkill and just trying to bring us back to the policies that failed during the Reagan administration of just lock them up and throw away the key. And that's not the way that we should be treating our citizens. And I would be fearful of anything that's coming out of the state capitol in regards to crime in New Orleans. Now I'm going to take off that hat and then put on my attorney hat. Obviously, the state has a great cause to regulate crime because you know what? Even though if you commit a crime and you're accused of committing a crime, you're arrested by the NOPD, which is a local agency. But when you go down to Tulane and Broad, it doesn't say NOPD or New Orleans versus whoever that accused criminal is. It says state of Louisiana versus that person. So obviously the state does have a great role in determining what our criminal code looks like. So I believe that we should have a effective advocate up there who's familiar with the issues that are going on in our city to make sure that they don't go too far, because that's really what I fear. And there would be a lot of fear mongering going on and just saying, okay, we need to go back to these policies that have been proven to be ineffective. So that's definitely what I would go up there and fight for, because I grew up, like I said, in the 90s when, it was just crazy out here, and we don't need to go back to those policies. I truly believe that.
Okay. Mona?
Yeah, on a slight tangent, I see state legislators from different parts of the state online, and talking about New Orleans crime seems to be their whole personality. So I do think there is. I wish I was kidding, but I'm not. But there does seem to be a sort of gatekeeping almost around making sure that legislator from Monroe isn't, making decisions about what's happening here in New Orleans. So I appreciate your take on that. Slightly switching topics, let's talk sewage and water board, everyone's favorite. So sewage and water board, as many people don't know, is a quasi state entity that was created 1800s. Just a mess, to say the least. So, being that it is a quasi-state entity, what do you see as your role in addressing inefficiencies within the sewage and water board?
Well, my role would definitely be getting all the stakeholders at a table and just finally figuring out, for once, what do we want our sewage and water board to actually look like, and what do we want that governance structure to look like as well? I don't, once again, and this is just from my experience, I'm not sure I want the legislators up there in Baton Rouge controlling our sewage and water board, because it's just going to be tied up in political gamesmanship, and we won't end up getting the funding that we need. So I do believe that we need to just look at the BGR report and see what the other 51 peer cities are actually doing and just kind of mimic that model. I think in Louisiana and New Orleans in particular, we're fond of being different. And this is one thing that we don't need to strive to be different on. We just need to find the best practice model and emulate that. So we need to make sure that, we have one entity that controls everything, because it doesn't make sense to have a Department of Public Works working on minor things such as cleaning out the gutters. That's not a minor thing to the people on North Rendon Street. That's not a minor thing to the people on St. Anne Street. That is major, because that makes the difference between being able to walk outside of your house after there's a storm or not. So we need to make sure that we actually come together and just put all the political gamesmanship aside and make sure that we have the best stakeholders at the table and just figure out what we're going to do and emulate the best practices out there and just do that.
Well, and before we get to the next question, I mean, I'm 100% in agreement. I publicly came out and said that the BGR suggestion to make it even more of a state agency, I was like, do you want Jeff Landry saying, I'm mad at New Orleans, you don't get clean water? Because, I mean, that's basically, considering the kind of ridiculous relationship New Orleans has with the legislature, politicizing sewage. I mean, it's bad enough as it is that it's very removed from the average person. But to make it even more of a state agency, you want to see the Sewage and Water Board implement policy that doesn't take into effect how it affects ratepayers. Make it a state agency that only affects one parish. I mean, it would be the worst parts of like the RSD, but like water version. It would be really, really, really bad. But go on to the next question. This is a huge question for everyone in New Orleans, really in like the southern part of Louisiana. How do you plan to address the unsustainable rise in homeowners' premiums?
Well, I mean, that's a tough issue, because we need to make sure that we actually work collaboratively on this issue and make sure that we bring competition to the market, because that's the real big issue right now. And it's not just an issue that Louisianians are going through. Folks in Florida are dealing with this. Folks in California are dealing with it as well. So the average family in Louisiana experienced a 134% increase in their homeowners insurance. And that is just purely unacceptable. But you know what? Our state legislative delegation, they worked hard to make sure that we were able to get $45 million to attract more companies to this to this state in order to bring down rates. But that is just simply not going to be affordable going forward. So I would vow to actually work with our congressional delegation as well, with Congressman Troy Carter and others, to make sure that we can get a federal solution, because that's really the only way that we can get some relief. Because us as a state, unfortunately, being one of the poorer states in the union, we can't afford to keep throwing money that we could be throwing at our, and I don't mean to say throwing, but investing in our education system or investing in our infrastructure system. So we have to be smart and wise with the dollars that we do have. And I would definitely vow to work with our congressional delegation to make sure that a federal solution is thought of.
All right, Monet.
All right. Next question. So you mentioned you have a child. So I'm interested to see your perspective for this. What do you say to the recent college graduate who is questioning whether they should stay in Louisiana or move elsewhere?
That's a personal thing for me as well, because I remember when I graduated from LSU in 2004, it was like all of my friends were either moving to Atlanta, Houston, or Dallas. And in the almost 20 years from then, it doesn't seem like much has changed. And I was actually looking at some stats on this recently, and we've lost 110,000 college educated people since the year 2000. And that is a brain drain unlike any other. So we have to make sure that we can actually attract our citizens that are educated and give them a reason to live in this state. And I think this is where New Orleans is uniquely situated to attract more college educated people, because more than likely, like even if you're looking at folks that may be LGBTQ plus or Black folk that are educated, they want to live somewhere where they can feel safe. And I believe that New Orleans can truly be that that amazing city where they can be themselves and actually have a good place to work and raise their families as well, if that's what they want. So I would definitely say, if you're up in Shreveport or, Monroe, anywhere else, I know things can be a little hard, especially if you're different, quote unquote, if you're LGBTQ or even Black. But New Orleans is a safe space for you, so I would definitely encourage all of those graduates to come down to New Orleans. And I think if we're not doing it right now, the city of New Orleans should have some type of recruiting mechanism going out to all of our colleges in the state of Louisiana to let them know that we are a vibrant and actual choice for them to move to instead of having to go to Houston or Dallas. But that also harkens back to the economic development piece as well. We have to make sure that we're attracting industries to actually house those people and make sure that those students that we're trying to attract can actually have good paying jobs. So it's all a circle. It all kind of intermingles within itself. So we can't just have a little quarter of the pie. We have to make sure that we're looking at the whole pie and bringing all the stakeholders together so that we can create a utopian society in this city and this state.
Okay. A little bit of subject change. How would you describe the current status of queer rights in the state of Louisiana?
I would say it's not good. When there was the special legislative session that was going on a few months ago, I actually drove up there to support the youth because there was a Sustain the Veto rally for LGBTQ plus youth as well. So I definitely went up there to actually support our youth because it's not good what the state legislature is trying to do. And I do believe that we need to uphold equity as a fundamental societal principle. So my commitment to equity extends beyond existing policies. We have to make sure that the rights and safety of our LGBTQ plus individuals are upheld. And we got to make sure that there's fair working wages and that there's legislation to enhance the safety and well-being of all our residents, including our LGBTQ plus residents as well. So I vow to go up there and continue fighting. Like I said, I showed up at that one-day special veto session that was up there a few months ago to make sure that they knew that I was present and that I was there and that, they have any support and every kind of support that I can provide as well. And I vow to do that as I continue if I'm hopefully elected to the House.
All right.
Okay, so it is very, 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 very possible that the governor's race will end up going to a Republican for this gubernatorial election. Should that happen, what is your plan as a policymaker to work with not only a Republican governor, but also a supermajority within the legislature?
I think that just comes down to being a people person. And that's something that I truly believe that I have been able to experience because, growing up in the inner city and pretty much going to all schools that were pretty much majority Black and then going to LSU and then experiencing that culture shock as well, I was able to mix and intermingle with a bunch of different folks who have different ideals and are from different parts of the state. So that experience is what I would bring to the legislature. And I would, honestly, it may sound funny, and I don't know if I was about to call you representative, but council member Morrell did this, but I would love to actually just sit down and have lunch with every one of my colleagues so that we can connect on a level that isn't policy or legislatively based so that, when time comes and there's like a difficult issue that, you know me and I know you, and I know that we can work on this issue together. And really, I'm going up there to make sure that I can actually pass effective legislation. And I want to be a fighter as well, a fighter for the issues that matter to the people of District 23. But if I just go up there and fight and don't pass any bills, I wouldn't be doing the folks of District 23 any favors. So I want to get up there and be an effective legislator, and that means building relationships, and that's something that I believe that I have been able to do throughout my life.
Before we get to your closing, just on that point, I think that that's probably the number one thing I've noticed in my time since I left the legislature. It seems to be that there was an acceleration towards partisanship, like to become DC over this last term, where you could disagree with people vehemently, like go to the mic and like throw down disagreements, but the line of communication was never closed. And to your point, it is very difficult to conceptualize being able to pass the non-unanimous jury constitutional amendment if I didn't have personal relationships where I could convince people that this was the right thing to do. Because by default, every legislator's position, most legislators, I wouldn't say me because I had some crazy votes, but most legislators, they go the path of least resistance. And if a no is always easier than yes, I mean, you very seldom get an attack ad over a no vote. You get an attack ad over a yes vote. You never get an attack ad over a no vote. So to your point, I think what's critical with anyone who wants to go to the legislature is realizing that if you don't see other people as human beings and you don't appeal to them as human beings and you don't get them to recognize you as a human being, it makes it easier for them to define you as a partisan Democrat versus, Shaun Mena from, District 23 in New Orleans, because there's going to be a lot of time where you're going to have to extend an olive branch of trust in a very uncomfortable way. And if you don't have that relationship, you can't do it and they can't do it. And if there's never that level of trust, I mean, I have crazy stories about like stuff that I've had to deal with where weird phone calls where people were helping me pass the non-unanimous juries by doing really weird ads, shooting up mannequins with machine guns to show that it protects your right to use your gun. But it's like everyone attacks an issue from a different perspective, and you should never surrender your moral core because that's obviously who you are. But you have to, one of my idols in life is Mr. Rogers. And I think that's probably why I was able to be as successful as I was, because you just can't stop seeing people as people, even if you disagree with them, even if you think that, even if you think that it's not humanly possible to communicate with another human being because their political position is so ridiculously anti what you are, the moment you stop seeing them as a human being and you dehumanize them, you're no better than they are. That's my little mini rant inside of your time. But anyway, so Shaun, for your closing, sorry I took up some of your time with my mini rant, but I'm the host, so I could do that.
I agree.
I took your time. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Pass around the collection plate. That's okay. Once again, my name is Shaun Mena, number 50 on the ballot. And I definitely would appreciate the support of all the residents in District 23 because I am your neighbor. And as the son of immigrants and a guy who grew up in New Orleans in the inner city when we were murder capital of the world, I truly believe that life experience tied with my legislative experience and policy experience makes me uniquely qualified to hit the ground day running to be the best state representative for District 23. And my campaign truly believes that local accountability and local representation matters. And you know what? We need to have somebody that is actually a resident of this district representing the district. And I think that is wholly important. And that's why I'm running, to give the residents of District 23 the option to vote for a neighbor. And I hope that they would take that option. Thank you all so much for the time. This has been a great podcast, and I truly appreciate it.
Thanks, Shaun. We appreciate you, and that's all we got. So we will be looking forward to putting this up shortly, and looking forward to you in the campaign trail.